Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to chia jam tarts or regular jam tarts, whatever you have. So I'm just going to wait a minute until everybody joins and can see where we are. It's going to be perfect because it's not so sunny this afternoon and you can have a nice bake in time for tea time. So come on and say hi and join me. It's pastry week, so this is our first sweet pastry recipe of the week, and then on Saturday we're going to do a savoury recipe as well. So lots of rolling pin practice and cutter practice and all kinds of things like that. Hi guys, come say hello. Come and say hello. And actually what you can do while we're waiting, hi Millie, is you can do what I'm just about to do, which is you can go and heat your oven up to 180 or 160 fan. So I'm just going to go and put my oven on. But come and say hello and I will give you some shout outs. Perfect. Who have we got? Hi Esther, lovely, and Rebecca. Hi Keely. Perfect. So we're all ready for a bit of pastry rolling this week, which is going to be super fun. And I'm going to give you this healthy kind of chia jam filling. So if you've got any chia seeds, that's what we're going to make chia jam. But if you don't, you can just use regular jam, whatever you've got, or lemon curd or something else. It doesn't matter. Hi Ria. Hi Jenny and Galeen and Theo and Rebecca. It's so wonderful to see you guys coming and cooking with me again. Thank you. And for all your lovely feedback on the page. I'm loving seeing what you're doing. Hi Ayla. And some of you I know have been cooking and making some of the recipes again and selling them to raise money for the NHS. And I am super, super proud of you. So amazing. And some of you have been doing lots of food parcels for families. All fantastic. Hi Eliza, you're ready to bake. Terrific. Terrific. So I haven't got any to show you today because I'm quite low on my flour. Hi Poppy and Chloe. So I didn't want to use too much, but it doesn't take long in the oven. Hi Chloe and Amy. So don't worry. Addison, hi Addison. And you know what jam tarts look like anyway. So the big surprise today is going to be the chia seeds, but you know what the rest is going to look like. So while everybody's joining us, let me just tell you what you're going to need. Hi Persephone and Alethea, you're waiting on a new mixer, so you won't be joining until Friday. Okay, you're very lucky to get a mixer because I had a few people that can't get hold of them. They want the kind of food processor. But if you've got a little a mini blender, or you've got something like a NutriBullet, you could use that as well. Hi Raj, hi Theo in Jersey, that's lovely. And actually you can also do this by hand. So you remember when we've done crumble, we've done crumbly fingers, and I always say don't squish it. So you do the crumbly fingers first and then you're just gonna squish it until it comes into a pastry. So you can absolutely do pastry by hand, just particularly on a hot day, like today where it's quite warm and we've all got hot sweaty hands probably. It's sometimes easier to do it in a food processor and then you don't need to let it rest and cool. You are going to bake on ketchup. Fantastic, Lisette. So you can have a little watch of our chia jam. So let me tell you what you're going to need. So as I said, go and get your oven on. So you want your oven on at about 180 or fan 160. And this makes a lot of pastry. So if you are short of flour and you want to cut it in half, do that. But otherwise, just roll out what you want for today. And you'll be able to keep the rest of the pastry either in the fridge or the freezer. And you can make all kinds of lovely shapes. So hi Esme, and you can do, yeah, you can send those to me because I know some of you have got some awesome cutters because you showed me all the cutters from last week from our cheese straws and they were amazing. We had dinosaurs and all kinds of things, so you can do that too. So what you're going to need from the for the pastry is you're going to need some butter, 175 of butter, and I'm going to go through all of this when we cook it together, so don't worry. You're going to need some caster sugar, that's 200 grams of caster sugar. You are going to need a couple of eggs, so I've got my eggs here. You're going to need a little bit of vanilla, we talked about that the other day if you've got some. And you're going to need some either plain flour, I've got regular plain flour and a little bit of baking powder, or you can use self-raising flour, it really doesn't matter, whatever you've got, okay? So, hi Natalie. So that's what we're going to use for the pastry and we're going to blitz that up, but I'm going to start with making the chia jam. So chia seeds are these amazing little seeds. You can get them in different colours. Sometimes some are a bit black. If you can see those, they're sort of browny. And what I'm going to show you is this. I put some in here. And they're really magic because they swell up. So you can see there at the bottom of my glass, they're really small, aren't they? They look a bit like sesame seeds, really. And I'm going to put a bit of water in. So watch this. And they're going to be swimming around in there. You can kind of see there. And I'm going to leave them here, and then I'm going to show you later how much bigger they get. So they're magic. They swell up. So it's a really good replacer instead of eggs if you want to make an egg replacer. You don't have eggs or you can't eat eggs. And we're going to put these in our jam, and instead of loads of sugar, it's going to make it stick together, and it's going to make it like a special jam, okay? You might have it for breakfast in the morning. So I'm going to put that to one side and show you a bit later. So we're going to need the chia seeds. You're going to need a little bit of honey just to make it sweet. And if you don't have honey, you could use sugar too. And then you're going to need some frozen fruits. Now I suggested raspberries because raspberries have got little seeds that look a bit like these chia seeds too, don't they? But I've actually just had a packet of mixed berries. So you can see I've got a selection of, what have I got in there? Black currants and blackberries and raspberries and the odd strawberry and stuff like that. So whatever you've got, if you've got any fruit that is looking like berries that are a little bit past their best, a bit mushy, they are perfect for the jam too. So give me a thumbs up if you're making chia jam with me, or you're just going to watch and you're going to use regular jam. So if you don't have chia seeds or you don't want to make it, then you can just, like I said, use regular jam or lemon curd or Biscoff spread or whatever else you want to do. So give me a little thumbs up if anybody's doing that with me, or whether I'm going to be doing that for you as a demo. Fantastic. Some of you are doing it. Good, because you're going to love it. And it's amazing to have like on porridge, not that you'd want porridge at this time of year, but on cereal, whatever you want. You're excited, or on ice cream or anything like that. Loads of you, fantastic, good. Because I had one or two that said they couldn't get hold of chia seeds, and I thought, oh no, perhaps you couldn't. So these are really, really good. Great. So if you've got your oven on and you've got all your bits out and you've washed your hands, we are ready to go. So what I'm going to get you to do, we're going to start with the jam, and just, hi Sophie and Josh, we're going to start with the jam first so that can be cooking while we're doing our pastry, okay? So what's the temperature from 1 to 8? Oh, I always forget this off the top of my head. I think it's 3 or 4 on a gas mark. Have a double check. But you're going to be able to do it by eye because you just want the pastry to go nice and light and golden. Hi Renee, it's lovely to see you as well. So basically just pop in your frozen fruit, whatever you've got, and I let mine defrost. If yours is still frozen, it's fine. So whatever fruit you're using, blueberries, whatever. I like more the berry fruits rather than like mangoes or something, but you can do anything you want. So pop them in a little saucepan, and then you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of your chia seeds. So I'm not using a tablespoon measure. You can just use a regular tablespoon. Do it over your saucepan because they look like little ants when they fly everywhere, and we don't want to spill them. So I'm going to take 1 kind of level spoon like that. You can probably see there. So 1 spoon goes in, 2 spoons go in. And I'm going to close that up and put that out of the way. And then you're also going to want 3 tablespoons of honey. Now, lucky me, I've got a squishy honey pot, so it's easy. Did you find the seed in the back of the cupboard out of date? I think that would be okay. They're fine. I mean, most of these things, you know, use by dates and sell by dates is just to make sure. I wouldn't keep something for years and years. How much fruit per van? It's 400 grams, okay? But something like the seeds, okay, use your sense, you know, smell it, taste it, look at it. Obviously, if it's moldy, it's, you know, not great. But these kind of things, especially if they're in a sealed packet, they're fine, okay? Oven temperature, Joe, is 180 or 160 fan, okay? So I'm going to use 3 spoons of honey. Now, if you've got a big jar of honey, you're going to want to scoop it in, twiddle, twiddle, twiddle like that really fast, and then pop it in so it doesn't drip everywhere. So hopefully, oh, new packet, so I need to open it, don't I? There we go, otherwise I won't be able to squeeze anything out. So, and some of you might have special honey twiddlers. And if you want to measure it, a spoon is generally about 15 milliliters, so it's about 45 mils of honey, but it's up to you. So I'm going to squeeze 1 and 2, so only roughly, and you'll be able to add a bit more if you think it needs a bit later, okay? I've got some black currants in there, so they're quite tart. It's not been opened yet. It should be fine. I think you'll be absolutely fine with that. So years ago, here's a little tip, what they used to say was with flour and things like that, you shouldn't keep it for too long. And often because the packets were open, ooh, let me reach for my spoon, but also sometimes you can get little weevils, little grubs in there. And that's usually what you worry about with dried foods, but it's not really a problem. So, okay, let me pop that there. So I've got in my pan, and hopefully you've got too, your dried fruit. Hi Rebecca, you're baking today, fantastic. And I've got 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. They're the little white things that you can see there. And I've got 3 tablespoons of honey, okay? And all we're going to do now is I'm going to put that on the hob. We're going to bring it up, to probably boiling or quite hot, and then we're going to simmer it so that it's going to get all nice and sticky and jammy, and those little white seeds are going to disappear everywhere. You've got no honey, so I just use the same amount of sugar. Just use 2 or 3 tablespoons of sugar, it's fine, okay? You are the chef today. So again, I've not really sugared this because we're keeping low on the sugar, so it's a little bit of a nicer recipe, okay? Perfect, so I'm going to put this on, and you can do the same. And I'm just going to bring that up so it's a bit hotter. I'm not going to show you that at the moment. I'll bring it back. Hi, Jasmine. So I'm going to wait for you so that you've all got all of your jam on there and it's starting to cook. And those of you that are not doing the jam, don't worry, you can just watch us. Black chia seeds are absolutely fine. Yeah, it just depends what you buy. These, as you can see here, are called white chia seeds. Usually the ones that you get like in the baking aisle at the supermarket, you do get the little packets, and normally I do have black chia seeds, but then I went once and I got, you can see, a big tub, and I've got those. So it doesn't matter for this because they're going to get hidden in the jam, but if you were doing something you didn't want to see them, then you can kind of choose the colour of whatever you've got. So like sometimes if you put this in, say, porridge or something like that, you won't really see it, whereas you would see the black ones. But we're also going to maybe give it a blitz up if you like a more pureed texture of jam. How long should the jam be boiling? It doesn't really need to boil. I'm just going to bring it up to the boil because I'm going to make it a bit quicker today. I'm just going to leave it for 5 or 10 minutes until it gets nice and sticky. So it depends how hot your pan is, how soft your fruit was, whether it's frozen. Let me show you mine. That's not quite hot yet. So you just really, you want all the fruit to mush down. So I'm going to keep showing you that, so don't worry. Put it on at the same time and we'll keep an eye on it together, okay? That'll be absolutely fine. Good. So if everybody has got their stuff in the pan, and you just want to go back every so often and just give it a little stir, okay? If everybody's got that in the pan, then we're ready to weigh our ingredients out and do our pastry. So, can you do it without the seed? You can't make the jam, Becky, without the seeds because the jam kind of sticks it together. That's the magic of this one. Normal jam is like equal quantities of sugar and fruit, so I'm not doing that today, and you need a special jam sugar. So this is kind of like a healthier version. If you don't like the seeds, if it's because you don't like them, you can blitz them up and I promise you won't see them afterwards. If you don't have them, then just use regular jam, okay? Hi, Charlotte. Okay. So I can hear mine's boiling a bit, so I'm just going to turn that down and just let it thicken up. Because what happens is these seeds, and you can't really see, I put them in a lot of water. If I take 1 or 2 out, you'll kind of maybe start to see. What happens if I put them there is they start to get like a little coating, like a jelly coating on the side. So if you've got some at home, do what I'm doing and just put them in a little bowl or a little glass with some water. And they start to feel a bit like frog spawn after a while. So they basically get this jelly coating and absorbs all the liquid. And that's what makes them such a great egg replacer and so good in things like jam. Can you use a muffin tray? Yeah, you can do. You just need to roll the pastry like so it's a bit thicker. But if you've got a, what was the word I was going to say? A Yorkshire pudding tin, you could use that too. So whatever you want. Yeah, anything like that is good. Or if you don't have, you could just roll the pastry out, make little flat shapes and put the jam in the middle like a little tart. Whatever you want to do. So I'm going to let all my stuff soak. You've already made the jam without the chia seeds. Perfect. Don't add mustard seeds unless you want a savoury one. So I'm not sure if you mean, Maria, that you've made jam with loads of sugar so it's nice and sticky. But these chia seeds are special seeds. We're adding them because they're thickening, okay? We're not adding them for taste or looks or anything else. So mustard seeds you'd add for flavour. So they add no flavour, these things, okay? You're baking in Banbury, Izzy. Hi. So these, as I said, if you can kind of see there on my hand, they just swell up a bit and they get really jelly-like, and that's the texture you want, okay? That is the texture you want. So just let that simmer away, but regular jam is fine. So if you don't want to make it or you've got a bit of a problem, it's fine. Normally I'd make the jam a bit earlier, but I want to show you that you can do it at the same time because normally I like it to cool down. Okay, good. So you want to grab a bowl, pop it on your scales. So check that your scales are on as well. So we're going to turn it on and we're going to pop it on G for grams. So, because we're going to be measuring all of our flour and our sugar and stuff, okay? And this way that we're making pastry is super easy because it just all goes in the food processor. It's going to be really, really quick. So if I show you my jam just quickly, you'll be able to see. So you can kind of see the seeds there a little bit. And it's not quite thickening up yet, but I want all of this fruit. So like if you've got big lumps of fruit like I have, you want it all to soften down. And where you can see it's quite liquidy there, like if I pull it back, you can see it running. I want it to thicken up, so that's what we need, okay? that back on. Right, we had a question. Oh, Esther, I love you too. Thank you for cooking with me. What's the best tray to use? You haven't got any. Okay, so I'm using, it's a good question, because I didn't show you these before, I'm sorry. I'm using a jam tart tin. So these are special for jam tarts, but only because they're not very deep. So you could use a Yorkshire pudding tin, you could use mini cupcakes, anything like that really. And if you don't have anything, then just a baking tray, and we'll just make some little shapes and you can put some jam in the middle, okay? One of the good things about the chia seeds is if they're nice and thick, it will stop the jam running, because normally jam is so full of sugar, and sugar melts, doesn't it, in the heat of the oven, so otherwise you'd end up with it all over the place. So the chia is quite good for that. I'm not sure I've put these actually on my list, so I could give you a little sign for those. Metal is really good for pastry, so that's the one thing I don't normally do with silicone, but mini tins are fine if you've got those too. Now I can hear that my jam is starting to bubble away and it's starting to get a bit thicker, so I'm just going to turn it down a bit. I'm trying to do mine a bit quickly so I can show you the texture as well. You put honey with the jam to make it thicker? No, if you've got honey, I would just use honey. If you don't have honey, you can use sugar. I just thought we'd try. When I did this recipe, I wanted to make it like a really low natural sugar, but no real sugar. But it's up to you, it doesn't really matter. We need a bit for sweetness, especially with the berries. So let me show you this already, just because I've been boiling mine a little bit. And can you see it's starting to thicken up already on the spoon there? Okay, it's still liquid, it still needs a bit more, but it's starting to thicken up, and you can see that all of those big bits of fruit are starting to mush down a bit, and that's what you want. So you want to keep stirring it so it doesn't catch on the bottom, but you'll keep it on for a bit more. We all need a bit more, okay? Perfect. Good. Because this is week 10, guys. Can you believe it is week 10? You're doing so well. I'm getting you to do 2 things at once. Right, so back to where we were. So we've got our bowls on our scales, okay, everybody good? And we're going to put in our butter. So we need 175 of butter. Now we're not going to cut in our hand again, are we? So we're going to cut it on the table. And although I'm using a food processor, it's much easier for the food processor when we've got it in small bits rather than chopping up a huge chunk of butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it like this down onto my bit of paper. I'm going to cut it into little strips. I'm just showing you like this. And then I'm going to cut those into small pieces, just little chunks like that. I'm going to put those in my bowl so that I've got the small pieces, and I'm going to weigh out 175. So you're doing that with me now. So can you see, I'm just going to, don't do this in your hands, but I just want to show you the kind of size. I'm just cutting it like that, okay? So I've got some more there. Perfect. Okay. So remember, a packet of butter is always 250. So if you've started a new one, it's a really good idea because you'll know how much. So half will be 125. So I know I want a little bit more than half. So I know it's half term, but you can have a little maths lesson as well today. So we can do that. So we'll just pop all of that in there. And we'll get to 175, and then we're good to go. So a bit like when we did our crumble, we wanted the small pieces too. Let's chop that bit. Perfect. So you should have lots of little bits of butter like that, and then I'm just going to chuck them straight in my food processor so that I'm ready to weigh out the next thing. I'm going too fast. That's okay. I'm just showing you the one. I'm going to slow down. Do not worry. I'm going to ask you all for thumbs up when you're ready, and we can carry on. Okay? So just 175 grams of butter. Just chunk it up nice and small in your bowl. And then when you're done, you can put it straight in your food processor. Okay? And I'm just going to show you my jam so you can see that, because I know I've got you doing 2 things at once. So you can see here that the jam has already started to thicken up. I don't want to tip it right on top, but you can see there as I move it around, it is definitely starting to thicken up. Spreadable butter is okay, but it will be quite soft now when you put it in the food, because it's softer when you take it out of the fridge. So you might want to chill your pastry for a bit before you roll it and just like blitz it in the freezer for 5 minutes, but it's fine. Yeah, you can use that, whatever you've got. And if you're dairy free, then obviously. So can you see it's starting to thicken and it's starting to look a bit more like jam. So I'm still going to put mine back on. I just want to show you how quickly it goes. And remember these seeds, can you see here? They're really soaking up the water, and that's what they're doing in the pan. So I know it's a bit difficult for you to see, but if you've got 1 or 2 of these at home, you can keep taking them out and having a look at them and just feeling how much extra like jelly coating is around the side. They're really fun, really fun. And that's why some of you might have them for breakfast, because they really thicken up like yogurt and things like that. You're putting the dough in the tray. Oh, have you already done it? You are super quick, Maria. Somebody's a bit slow, somebody's too fast. Perfect, okay. So has everybody got their butter in? So give me a thumbs up when we're ready to weigh our next bit. And then we'll start with our sugar. It's looking good. Okay, good. So we're going to weigh in our sugar, and you want 200 grams of sugar. How long does the jam keep? Quite a while, actually. I keep it in the fridge. Doesn't normally last that long in my house because it's yummy and I end up having it on yogurt or with cereal or something like that, but it will last a long time. Just like regular jam, really, but I would keep it in the fridge in this temperature. Oh, it was you, Rebecca. Are you very super fast? Though that's okay. So I've got my 200 grams of sugar, so also going in my food processor. So you can do that too. And I'm going to weigh all my dry things first, okay? So when you've done that, I'm going to put that out of the way so you can see. And then I'm going to put in my flour. So I've got 400 grams, either a plain, and then I'm going to add a little bit of baking powder, or you can just do, how much sugar, Pavan? It's 200 degrees, 200 grams, okay? So I'm putting in here 200 of sugar, I've just done mine, and then I've got 400 of my flour. And don't worry, I'm going to slow down just so you can see what is going on. And keep your flour out because we might well need some to roll out our pastry, okay? So flour all in there, that's going in. And this is why you need quite a nice big food processor, but it will make loads of pastry, so you can divide half of it up and keep it to one side because it's half term this week and I know you're going to want to roll out some other bicky shapes. Can I go a bit slower? Yes, of course I can, that's fine. I'm just going to wait for you guys. So if I show you my jam now, you can see how nice and sticky it is, okay? So for me, that's perfect because there's no more liquid at the bottom. Right, so let me just recap on what you've got. So you've got 175 grams of butter. You've got 200 grams of sugar, 400 grams of plain flour. And if you're doing plain flour rather than self-raising, you can do what I'm going to do now and add in just a little teaspoon of baking powder, okay? Okay, so I'm going to wait until everybody's good. And don't worry, because I know that also you're doing 2 things at once and you're checking the stuff on the hob. So if you've been boiling yours and heating it quite a lot, then you'll probably find, like mine, it's ready to be taken off, okay? So like that, it's absolutely fine, okay? So you're going to do the jam tarts later. That's fine, you can still watch and see. So actually what you can do if you want to is make the jam, and then if you've made the jam like this and you can see already it's thickening up and you see how it's slowly dropping, and all of those seeds you can't really see so much because they look just like the raspberry pips. Just put it to one side so it cools down, because really it should be cool for us to put it in the jam tarts. Perfect. So give me a thumbs up if everybody's got their butter, their sugar and their flour in their dough or in their machine and you're ready to go for the next bit. So I don't want to go too quick because I know you're looking at your jam. So have another little look at your jam. Smell it, because we use all our senses when we cook. So if it smells really sweet and lovely, it's probably good. If it starts to smell like it's burning, go and have a quick stir, okay? Because we don't want the sugar to catch on the bottom. Good. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So I think most of us are good to go. Fantastic. Now, if you've got a little bit of vanilla, we're going to do a little teaspoon as well. So, oh, can't get mine open. There we go. So a little teaspoon, and normally I tell you to pour it over a bowl, so I'm going to do that here. But just so you can see, there's my teaspoon like that. And then I'm just going to carry that gently over to my food processor. Pop it in there. Okay? Perfect. Right. And then last but not least, you're going to have 2 eggs. Now, I haven't got my food processor in front of you at the moment, so I'm just going to crack my eggs in the bowl so you can see. When do you blend the jam? You can blend the jam a bit later. I'm not going to do it right now, so we'll roll out the pastry and then we'll do it when it's a bit cooler. It's up to you. Depends what fruit you're using and how pureed you like it. So I've got my little stick blender and I'll show you. Vanilla bean paste is also fine powder, and just use like a little bit of an end of a teaspoon. It's normally much more concentrated, okay? So I've got my eggs. So I know we've been practicing lots with eggs. So if you want to practice separating, this is a good time. So we're going to tap, tap, tap on the side. And I've got a glass bowl today, so it's going to be much easier. Get a nice big crack. And then we're going to lift it so that the pointy hat is pointing to the top. Going to take the hat off like that. And the white is just going to drip into the bowl that way. And then we can pour from one to the other. Can you see the food processor? Yeah, I'm going to bring it back over in a second. I'm just going to show you this. So it goes a bit like that. I know a lot of you have been asking for food processor advice, so it's a Magimix. And then I can just put my yolk in. So that's just practice. We don't need to separate the eggs today. If you don't want to separate your eggs, does the vanilla go in the jam? No, the vanilla goes in the food processor. It's part of the pastry. Oh, I love cooking with you as well, Sarah. So big hole there. We're going to point the hole down, so I'm not going to get egg on my fingers. I'm going to put my thumbs in. Can you see like that? I'm going to pull it apart and let it drop into 2 like that. Okay? So that is easy. And then my 2 eggs, I'm going to pour in my food processor. So let me just bring this over so you can see it. Here we go. I needed to create a bit of space, so let's move that out of the way. Oops. So there you go. There's my machine. I'll pop it that way. And there I've got my eggs in. So that is basically everything that I need for my pastry. And then the lid goes on. So those of you that are asking about the food processor, I don't know if it's just because you wanted to see it or you wanted to know. This is really old. This is like 20-something years old, so they last forever. This is a Magimix, and I did put the new version, I think, on the list so you can see it. And it comes with all kinds of attachments, and I love it. It's very good and very robust. So it's lasted about 10 years of cooking in my classes too, so it's pretty good. Right, so in here, let's just recap. You should have 175 of butter, 200 grams of sugar, caster sugar, 2 eggs, a little teaspoon of vanilla, 400 of plain flour, and then a little teaspoon of baking powder, or just 400 of self-raising flour. You can use a hand whisk if you want to. You're going to find it a bit harder to do. I would use, if you have got a blender or you've got a small processor like a NutriBullet or a soup machine or a smoothie maker or something, it's probably easier in there. The only thing, as you can see, this is why these machines are really good, is when you have a lot of stuff, like this is quite a big bit of dough, sometimes the small machines, because they've got a much less powerful motor, they struggle a bit. So I'm going to show you what you do, and you literally just put it on, and it will start whizzing, so it starts looking like crumble now, so you can do that bit by hand. And then as soon as it comes together in a ball, we're going to stop it, okay? So can you hear and see the difference? Starting to come together. You see it's getting smaller. And just wait. This bit, when you think it's not going to go, it will. So it's getting a bit stuck down there, you can see. So what I might do, once it gets a bit stuck, and yours might do that, is we don't want to put our hand in, I'm going to take the blade out. So I'm going to show you what I mean. This is why in a small machine you might struggle a bit. So some has come together really nicely, you can see on the bottom it's a bit stuck. And I'm just going to use my hands now and take it out and bring it together. Okay, so I'm going to put this out of the way. And pop that out of the way too. Oops. And then I'm just going to tip this out. So you can see it's starting to get together really nicely. And I want to use my fingers and make sure I've scraped everything out. So this is good. Hi Noah and Leo. So you can absolutely do this by hand. And traditionally you would have done this by hand, but pastry doesn't like to be really hot and to be held together, and often we've got hot hands, so it depends how you are. So, and warm butter and a warm day and a warm worktop, so the more you can keep it cold the better. So you can see it's a bit crumbly here, so I'm just going to squish it together a few times, not try and touch it too much, until I get a really nice big lump of dough. So remember, just like we did when we did our bread dough, we're going to knead it a little bit like this all over the table until I've cleaned up all of those little crummy bits. And then I've got a really nice big ball of dough. Can you see that? Now you can see how much this makes. This is an awful lot of dough. You're having fun, Estella? Good, I'm having fun too. I love pastry. So this is really good. I'm going to put this out of the way. Now I actually think it's going to make an awful lot of jam tarts. So it depends how many you want to make. And also, as I said to you, you can feel already, my pastry is not hot, but it's not super cold. So normally what we say, and you'll see I said on the recipe, is we chill it in the fridge. It's called resting pastry. So I normally would cut mine into 2. So I'm going to use half. And then a little tip for you, rather than leaving it in a big ball, which I know is really helpful, but then when it comes out of the fridge cold, it's very hard to roll a ball. So give it a smack, bit noisy, and just leave it in a kind of flat disc like this. So I would unwrap this in cling film or just put it on a plate or something and put it in the fridge and let it chill. And then you can keep it for a bit or you can freeze it, whatever you want. And then later in the week, you can just roll it out and you can have some really yummy, just plain biscuits or whatever you want to do with them, okay? Or more jam tarts. So I'm going to put that to one side. So I'm just going to do a bit today. And then with this bit, this is the one I'm going to roll today, okay? So I'm going to wait for you guys to be ready. Do not worry. So I want to know that your jam has come off. So you can see even just a few minutes, look how thick that is now. Can you see? Really nice in there. And I will give it a bit of a zhuzh up with the mixer. You could do it in a mixer as well instead of a blender so that you can see. And remember that whatever jam we have here is going to bake again in the oven because it's going to go in the jam tarts. So because we've got those chia seeds, they're going to get even thicker. So here are my seeds. And you can probably start to see now at the side of the glass, they've got like a little outer ring. And that is the jelly. And it's really fun. So if you've been doing this at home, later when you take them out, put one on your tongue and you'll really feel it. It's really cute. I'm very noisy, sorry. I don't know if it was me being very noisy or you being very noisy there. I know. I want to show you the food processor because we do cook with all our senses. So you can start to hear it, even if you couldn't see it, and you can start to hear the different noises when your dough starts to come together, okay? So when you've got some dough, however much you want to keep, and when you've got your jam off, if you've been making jam, let me know. Those of you that were using it with a kind of butter spread or you're using a non-dairy alternative, your dough might be a bit stickier, okay? If it's a bit sticky now and you want to give it a quick chill, then do what I showed you before. Pat it down like this and just put it on a little plate and just whack it in the freezer for a few minutes. It will just cool it down a bit because you don't want it to be too sticky to work with, all right? So I'm going to clear up my worktop so I've got a bit of space. Perfect. And I'm going to wait until you tell me that you're all good. So give me a thumbs up when you're ready for pastry rolling. And you'll need your flour and you'll need a cutter, okay? And obviously a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you could just use, not this, but you know, like the side of a glass, anything that just looks like a rolling pin that is rollable. And the same if you don't have a cutter, you could just use, you want round circles because we want to fit them in our tins, but you could use the edge of a glass or something like that. Like you can see here, I could use this. It's pretty good, huh? Okay, so one or two of you are a little bit behind. So that's, well, not behind, but you're waiting. That's fine, I'm going to wait. No problem at all. Okay, so if you are waiting, what you can do while you're waiting is I'll show you. So I've got my jam tart tin here and I've just kept a butter wrapper. So you know we used most of the butter. So I kept a little bit in there and it's quite soft. And then you can either use fingers or you can use a bit of the wrapper, this is a good tip, just to give like a wipe to the inside of all of those holes so that our pastry hopefully won't stick. So you can give it a little grease, particularly if you've got older trays and they're a bit scratched, because sometimes, as you can see like mine, you have to put a knife in or a spoon in and you scratch a bit of the lining. So this way, nothing will stick, okay? So just a little bit of butter, it doesn't need to be a lot. If you put a big bit in like that, just take your fingers and spread it around all the other trays, give it a massage. You put your pastry in the freezer, perfect, exactly. So normally you should have pastry to rest, and it's like having a sleep in the fridge. And part of the idea is that the gluten, which is the protein in the flour, gets to rest and relax. And that makes it easier because pastry does something called shrinking, which you might have seen before. When you bake it, is you bake it and it's like really big and then it shrinks back down in the tin. So the longer you chill it for, usually the idea is that it helps to stop the shrinking. But today we're just going to do it in one go because I don't want you guys waiting too long. And actually sometimes softer pastry is easier to roll. So I'm just going to make one tray at the moment. So you can do whatever you like. And also we're going to roll out, if you want, the little scraps. So you can, the scraps that we end up with, once we've not able to roll out any more circles, you can make some little shapes and stick them on top. Is the tin from my list on Amazon? I'm not sure I've put that on the list, so I can do. They're very standard. They're just metal tins. I actually quite like, I've taken two out to show you. I like these because they're, I don't know if you can see, they're slightly at an angle like that. Whereas this one is a bit deeper. And also it's got a little ridge on the edge, which as you can see from where we've used it in class and we've scraped a bit, this one isn't always as easy to get out. But I will put another little list on. So actually pastry is one of the only things that I really like with metal. And I tell you why, it's a bit of science this week, is because metal gets much hotter than silicone in the oven. So this means that it really crisps up and it stops us getting something horrible called a soggy bottom, which we don't want when we've got pastry, do we? We don't want a soggy bottom ever. So sometimes the pastry won't be crisp, so it's really nice to do it on this. It's just like a baking tray with holes out. So if you've got Yorkshire pudding tins or something like that, they would work fine too. So, how are we doing? Everybody good? So give me a nice little red heart if you've got some red jam, then I know. So mine's cooling down and you can see it is magic, isn't it, these seeds? Look how much thicker they've got. I mean, I only had it on for about 5 minutes. And you can give me a nice thumbs up if you're ready to go. And actually what you should see, I had a big strawberry, didn't I, there? You can see the big strawberries pretty much mushed down. And you can just with the back of your spoon mush it. But those of us that want to puree it, I'll show you how you can puree it. Oh, excellent. We've all got jam, 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 jam. You're going to love this. Actually, what I didn't tell you, Chef, little finger in, have a little taste. Oh, it's yummy. Really yummy. So if you feel you need a bit of honey or something, you can add a bit. Blueberry, also yummy. Oh, you're going to have amazing purpley jam tarts. Delicious, delicious. Thumbs up and love hearts. I'm loving it. So it's so quick, isn't it? It really, really, really is quick. And actually, if you had hours, you could just leave your fruit out with, let it defrost with the honey and with the chia seeds, and it would just eventually firm up, okay? We're just helping it out because we got it a bit warmer. So you can see here, look, getting much thicker. That water is kind of reducing, isn't it? Really, really clever, these things. And they're really good source of protein. They're super healthy for you. Okay, you're planting at the same time. Are you doing lots of things? Goodness. So the vanilla, Jackie, was to go into the pastry. So a little teaspoon of vanilla went in the pastry. If you haven't put it in, don't worry, it really doesn't matter. If you want to put vanilla in your jam, you can put vanilla in your jam, doesn't matter. So, if you're ready for pastry, what we always do with pastry is we make sure we've got a fairly clean worktop, so give yourself a bit of space because we're going to make a bit of a mess. And you want to take a little bit of your flour, whatever flour it was, and give it a little shake over the table. Give it a gentle massage or a little pat so that you know that you've got a bit of flour everywhere. And then we do the same with our rolling pin. So we take our rolling pin, we give it a nice little rub all the way down so that everything is covered. So we flour everything when we cook. We flour our table, we flour our rolling pin, and we flour our pastry. So we gently, I'm just going to put it down on the table and turn it over just so that it's lightly got a bit of flour. Okay? A bit like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pastry, my rolling pin, I'm going to roll a little bit like that. And you want to keep trying for the first bit, pick it up. Spread your flour again, turn your pastry over and roll a bit more because I don't want it to get stuck to the table. So every so often I'm going to just see if I can move it and I'm rolling those thicker bits out to thinner bits. We don't want our pastry very thick. It doesn't matter what shape it is, so if it's, you just roll it whatever you've got in front of you. And if it's starting to stick here, then you just take a bit of flour from the table and give it another rub, another massage, okay? And if there's any pastry stuck to this, you do what I did, just rub it up and down like this until all the pastry comes off so it's not sticking. Okay? So I'm going to roll it out a bit like that. And remember, I've done half, so even if you want to make all of your jam tarts now, don't roll the whole pastry in one go because it's much easier to roll half of it, okay? So roll it out, and it's not, I'm going to cut one out so I can show you. It's a few millimeters thick. So if I show you like that, can you see? So roll out your pastry for me. And it's pretty nice. It's pretty well behaved today, isn't it? I hope you're well behaved too. So I know it's warm, but actually if you don't handle it too much, it's going to do pretty well. And then when you're ready, what you're going to do is you're going to take your cutter. If I can tip this a bit, then you can see. I'm going to have to lift them up. You want to go right to the edge, push and wiggle like that, and then move it away. Now, if it doesn't come off immediately, you can take a knife, I'll show you in a minute, we'll go underneath it. And you want to try and get as many out in one go as you can. So try and get as close to that hole, the previous hole, as you can, because pastry doesn't like to be rolled too many times. You can do it, but the fewer times we roll it, the better. So I'm pushing and giving it a wiggle. Now, some of them will come off really easily like this. And if they don't, then all you need to do is take a little knife and just run your knife under the table like that. And they just come off straight away, okay? And then when you've lifted them up, if you're a bit short of space, you're just gonna put them into your tins like that. And then you can use your fingers and just push them so that they're going all the way up the side. Because you want a little cutter, like my cutter is just a little bit, about a bit bigger than the size of the holes in my tin, okay? So I'm gonna fill some of the holes in now. And also, if you have a little hole, so if you've made a little tear in your pastry, don't worry, because you can use your fingers and you can do like a little bandage. So if I had a hole, I'd take a little bit of this and I just stick it on top here like that when I put it in my tins. So I'm sure I will rip one too, so I'll show you a ripped one in a second. Pop those in. So you can see there. So if I didn't lift that one up, you can see, look, I've got a little tear there. So what I would do is I put it in my tin. So you can see it's got a tear, and then I can just use my fingers to stick it back together. And if there's a little tear still, I take a little scrap like a plaster and I just shove that in. Nothing to see there now, can you see? So this pastry is really, really nice, really easy to use, and it makes amazing biscuits too. So I'm just using my knife to get them up from the table because that way it's easier, they're not going to get ripped. And with half of that, I've rolled out basically kind of 12 in one go, and then I've got some scraps. So I know you're all rolling and I'm chattering away, so don't worry. We've got lots of time. Oh, in fact, I rolled more than 12. Maybe I should do a second tray. Okay, let's do that. So I've rolled 13 out of my first bit. That was just half my dough. And then you can see I've got all these little scraps. Now, before you mush them up together, if you have a little bit and you wanted to cut something out, so say you've got a heart cutter, I haven't got, but let's do a triangle, for example, because that's easy for me. You could just cut out some little shapes before you squish it up, and then we could put those on the top afterwards. But if you don't want to do any shapes or you haven't got any cutters, just squish up what you've got left, just like we did before, into your hands, so it's a nice ball. And try and make it nice and soft so we haven't got it too cracked. A bit more flour again on the table. And then and a bit more flour again on our rolling pin. And then we're just going to go again. We're just going to roll some more. So I give it that little smack and turn it over so that my rolling pin's covered, my pastry's covered, and then I'm going to go again. Take my knife out of the way. So I reckon I could make, oh, I don't know, how many could I make in one go? Let's see, I reckon 16, if not a bit more. So I'm going to take my other tin. I'm going to give it a little butter again. My butter up in there. So those of you that were already lining your tins, you were well ahead, well ahead. There we go. So you can see just a bit of butter is super easy. And then this will be a bit of a test. So those of you that ask me about tins, I'll let you know which one's better, but I think the other one's better. But it's just really personal preference. And obviously if you've got really deep tins, like if you were using Yorkshire pudding tins or something, just roll you know, circle this kind of size and it just won't go up the full side, it'll be fine. So there's one, and I'm going to use my cutter again and cut some more out. So this push and wiggle, you can push and wiggle and it should move. If it's starting to stick to the table, so like that one, you can see push and wiggle, it comes out. If the others don't come out, then we're just going to use our knife. Am I going to whiz my seeds up? Yes, I am, so that you can see, okay? I'm going to do all my pastry work first. And you can see if you put pastry in it, it looks a bit small like that. Just use your fingers, press it up the side, a bit like that, okay? There we go. The whizzing is totally up to you, and if you want to whiz it now, you can do. I'll show you what I'm going to do with mine so you can see. And I don't blitz it completely to a puree. That's one of the reasons I like doing it with raspberries, because raspberries have got seeds in anyway. So unless you hate the raspberry seeds, you won't notice if they're raspberry seeds or chia seeds really. But if you don't like it and you like a thinner texture, then absolutely we can whiz them up. So let me see there. So I've done 18 and I've still got some scraps, okay? So I could roll another one out. And like I showed you the other day, so I'm just putting my flour here on, and flour on the rolling pin and giving it a little roll. When you get to your last one, sometimes it looks a bit more cracked. So you don't want to roll it too much if the pastry starts to get really flaky. So that's not as nice as my first one, but it will do. And then when you get right to the end, if you've got a little bit like I have here, you can just squish it in your hand in a ball. So roll it into a nice ball. Give it a smack again, squish it in your hands. And you can use your fingers. You can see I've got a nice little circle there. And then what you can do with that is just pinch it out till it's the right thickness, and you can just put that also in your tray so you don't waste anything. So it won't be the prettiest, but it'll be fine. We don't want to waste anything. So I'm just using my fingers now to thin it out around the side. And I've got a bit too much, take that bit off. There you go. It looks perfect, doesn't it? So I've kind of got 2 trays really. Whoops. So I'm going to wait for you lot so you can do yours. And one of my tips that you know I like, because if your table is as messy as mine, you'll see, I don't know if you can see here, I've got a lot of flour. I'm just going to use my hand so you can see it. But if you've got a little dustpan and brush, a special one that you only use for kind of baking and working on your table, then just take that and sweep it. You can see, look, on my hand, sweep it all off, because when we add water to flour, we get a horrible sticky mess. So we don't want to do that. You can see what my hands are like just from doing that. So it's always a really good idea when you do pastry or you do bread making or anything like that, just sweep it all up off the table before you put a wet cloth on it. So I'm just going to wash my hands now because they're a bit icky. But there's one tray. Here's my full tray. So I've got lots of those. You are super organized. You are super organized. You can take the class. Now, one little tip for you, and the other reason I like metal, is you don't want to make your pastry too thin. So if you have a look here, you can see that you can start to see some little grey bits. You've probably got grey or black tins too. So you just want to be gentle. As soon as you can see a lot of grey, you've probably got it very, very thin, okay? And certainly no holes. But if you've made a hole, then just do my little bandage trick like I showed you before. Take a little bit and shove it back in, okay? And that's why I always keep a little bit of pastry to one side, so that if I have a disaster, then I know I've got a little bit and I can just shove that back in. So I'm just going to wash my hands. Perfect. And then we're good to go. Right. So give me a thumbs up if you're all like Maria and you've been waiting for me and I'm taking too long, if we're all good. And don't worry, remember I only did half my pastry, so I've got still here another big disc of pastry to use another time, because I think there's a limit to how many jam tarts even my greedy family will eat today. So I'm just going to pop this on a plate, cover it, and pop it in the fridge, and then it will last. I can have it, you know, next time. And you can do anything you like with it. Could make, not that you want to make mince pies now, but it's mince pie kind of pastry, it's biscuit pastry, it's anything. So use it and enjoy, and use some of those lovely cutters that you showed me last week for your cheese straws. Now I'm just going to move this to one side because you want to see my jam and I want to show you what you can do with it. So you want to check that your jam is not too hot to put on the paper. Can you put them in paper cases? You shouldn't need to, Amy. Are you using a metal tin? You can do, but I'm not sure that they would need it, because really with pastry what you want is really hot heat right on the bottom. It really crisps them up and it stops them getting soggy. That soggy bottom. So that's why metal is good. They don't need a case. You're right that it would be easier to take them out, but this pastry should come out really nicely. But if you're worried, yeah, put a case in. So I'm not putting this down on the table because my saucepan's still hot. So you can see, look how thick that is now. It's amazing, isn't it? Just thickens up by itself, and much, much quicker than making proper jam or normal jam. And if I take one of these out, I don't know if you'll be able to see more. Maybe you can there, yeah. Can you see there? All of that little jelly coating. It does look like frog spawn, doesn't it? It's amazing. Oh, I see, you've only got a baking tray. Okay, so if you've only got a baking tray, what I would do is cut some little circles and you'll just put a bit of jam in the middle. Imagine like you're making a pizza. So we're still gonna leave our sort of picture frame on the outside. So just do it like that. Have you got chia jam or are you using regular jam? That's the only thing, because if you've got regular jam, then it might spread. But I suppose actually thinking about it, with the paper cases, what you could do, you're right, actually, that would be an okay idea. You could put the, cut out a circle, pop them in the paper case. You could try and bend them so you've got a little wall up the side of the case, and then just put those cases on the baking tray. Or if you've got, oh, you're using chia jam, that should be fine then, because it doesn't spread as much as the other stuff. If you've got any little fairy cake cases, you could do them in that as well. It will just hold them a bit tighter. So you could do that too. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you've got silicone bakeware, then put it in the silicone bakeware, like in you know, the ones that we've been cooking with the last few weeks. Metal's better, but the silicone will work if you don't have those. You are very welcome. That's what I'm here for. Right, so give me a thumbs up if you've got whatever pastry you want to put in your tins, and then I will show you what we're going to do if you want to blitz it up. Now, I probably don't think it needs it, because actually all I've done is just give it a mush and a smush, very technical with the back of the spoon, and that big fat strawberry rather that I had, you can see it's kind of disappeared. So I think that's okay. But if you want to, what you do is take a little blender, I've got this one, or equally if you've got a small food processor or even a big one, you could do that. And I just literally put my stick blender in here. Let me put this to one side so you can see. And I'm just going to blitz it. I'm going to hold it like that so you can see. So you just literally put it up and down a few times. Right, if I show you that. It doesn't need very much. You should be able to see right in the bottom there. Can you see most of the seeds have gone? And it's a bit more like a puree there. But as I said, it's totally up to you, so it really doesn't matter. If you're using one of these, make sure you scrape it all off, because I don't want to lose that lovely, lovely jam. So if you want to blitz it and you've got a lot of seeds, or you don't like looking at the chia seeds, it doesn't matter. Those of you that have black chia seeds, as you can see, it makes no difference. You can't see them, can you? So it really doesn't matter. Let me take as much out as I can. Perfect. Right. So there's my... got bits, but you can see it's more pureed. I haven't got lumps of fruit, basically. Okay? Perfect. That's pretty good, actually. Right. So what I'm going to do now, and you guys can do too, if you're not blitzing it and you've got your jam, or you're using shop-bought jam, then that's fine, is you're just going to take a little teaspoon, and I suggest a teaspoon's good, because then you won't overfill your jam tarts, and you're going to pop a nice little spoon in each hole like that, and then very gently you can just give it a little pat to spread it out. So it will spread a bit in the oven. So the important thing, like we're doing picture frames again, like our pizzas, we don't want to spread it up the sides, and we definitely don't want to go over the edge, particularly if you've got regular jam, because it will bubble up a bit. So we want to make sure we've got a nice little wall around the outside of pastry that then we can scoop it out really easily. So we're just going to put a little teaspoon in each hole, and you can share it out. You should have more than enough, depends how many you made. So those of you that were asking me what do you do with the leftover chia jam, if you've made all of your jam tarts, you probably won't have any, okay? But it's delicious, and you can see it's so nice. You try it in yogurt, it's like paint. So you can take like a nice Greek yogurt or something like that, and you can make different jams. So those of you that did blueberry today, you're gonna have a different color to me. So I'm just gonna give it a little squish. So you can see I've just dolloped a bit in there, my first tray. I'm just gonna spread it a bit. And this is why I think teaspoons are good, because they're really easy. You don't need a knife. Just like that. And that. There we go. Oh, we've got one there that I forgot about. Now that one hasn't got enough jam. That's going to be a bit sad, so I might take a little bit more, put that in there. How are we doing? Perfect. Okay. So that's one there. I'm going to do my second tin. So you want to scrape it all out. So I know, am I slow again today? Is everybody else super ahead? So if you're using shop-bought jam, a little tip for you is you don't need to buy the really expensive stuff. So if you're normally eating like bon maman or something with nice big fruity lumps in, it's not what you want when you cook, is it? You want something that's a little bit more jelly-like. So you can just buy a supermarket-owned brand. You don't need to buy anything super expensive. And you can just have that for cooking if you want to. And lemon curd is good too, whatever you want really. There's lots of different things that you can put in your jam tarts. Oops, nearly made a mess there. So I've nearly finished up my jam actually. I like quite a lot of jam in my jam tarts though, so you may not need so much. And this is really good because it's all of that fresh fruit and lots of protein from the chia seeds. So these are healthy jam tarts and they look really pretty too. So I can see I've been a bit mean in some of those, so that's why I'm just going to finish up and take all of the rest of my stuff out. Let's give it a scrape. Pop a bit in there. A bit there. Now I've still got pastry left over, so again, you may have the same. So if you haven't rolled out all your jam tarts, you might want to keep a bit of jam back. Or you might not. I'm just going to finish mine up today. So I've got lots of chia jam. It's like having donuts when you bite in and there's not very much jam in there. It's very disappointing, isn't it? There we go. Okay. So that's my last bit. Perfect. So I've finished all of my jam apart from licking the spoon, which I shall do in a minute. And I've got it like that. And then if you had some little scraps, remember I made a little triangle, you could just put a little bit like that on the top. It looks really pretty. Or if you've got any little scraps, you can just, sometimes we like to just roll it in a little ball. You can give it a little squish, you can put it in the middle, or you could roll out. Some of you were doing this the other day with your cheese straws after we did it. It looked really cool. So you could roll out a letter for your name. So I'm an N, which makes it easy, doesn't it? So I could put a bit like that there. And then bit there, and then I'll show you a bit in the middle. I've made a very short end. I think that one needs to be trimmed a bit. Not the best end, but there you go. So you could do lots of things with the scraps. It really doesn't matter. Or leave them plain. So, how are we doing? So when you're done with these, and don't worry, I know I'm a bit faster than you, but I'm just going to put them in the oven so that you can see them. I'm going to put these in the oven at 180 or a fan 160 for about 20 minutes until they're nice and golden, okay? And then you're going to let them cool right down and take a spoon. The easiest way is take that little teaspoon and just push it out and flip out the little jam tarts. Remember, jam tarts are never good to eat straight from the oven. Nothing is, but the jam will be so hot, so you've got to leave it until it's really, really, really cool, okay? So I'm going to put these in very quickly. I'm coming straight back. Right, so mine are in for 20 minutes, perfect. So lots of thumbs up, so I'm hoping that means that you're in the oven. I'm going to share photos of mine later. I hope you're going to share yours. Definitely have a nice lick of your jam. Yummy. It's so good. So it's a really, really nice jam, really quick. And if you've been trying, don't forget, if you've done these as well, take these out, put one on your tongue, have a play with them. You can see that little jelly coating there. It's amazing. And that's the thickening agent. So you can see it's kind of sticking there. And that's what makes it fantastic as an egg replacer. So I'm glad you enjoyed. We're going to be back on Saturday with some more pastry work, different one this time. We're going to be using puff pastry. So we're going to be doing some savoury traffic light tarts. So I hope you enjoyed. If you can donate to FareShare, then please do. The link's in the pinned post. Share me your photos. Let me know how you got on. I'm super proud of you all today for doing amazingly, because you're doing two things at once. And if you've got leftover biscuit dough like I have, whack that straight in the fridge, and then you can show me photos of the other fun shapes and things you do. So this will keep really well for a good few days in the fridge, or like I said, you can wrap it and freeze it. So you've got biscuit dough to have some nice cookies another time. So thank you for joining me. I'm glad you enjoyed, and I will see you soon. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Bye.